Oh, hello, friends. Thanks again for joining me for another video blog when I'm bringing back a very special guest, Deborah Wilson. She was in my video blog last week. So if you missed our conversation from last week, make sure you check that out. I will put a link under this video so you can watch our chat last week. But we're thinking about making this a weekly chat because I love to I don't like to say picking her brain because I don't like that term, but I love to have her sharing her knowledge with us about this crisis, about health, about spirituality, about growth. And there's so much to talk about now that we decided to kind of do this thing every week, and we might try to go live next week. And please ask questions. Send me a note on Facebook or send me an email or contact Deb and ask questions so we can keep having chats that are meaningful for you. And I guarantee if it's meaningful for you, it's going to be meaningful for a lot of other people. So hello, Deb. Welcome.
Hi, I'm so glad. I'm really so glad to be back. I was like, oh my gosh, it's been a week. I get to talk with Alex again. And yeah, it's always a thrill to talk to you either like this, of course, in person over a glass of wine. It's always nourishing. And I think that's the piece that I want to, wherever you want to go today, I just feel like our thread of it is going to take us to a place of what nourishes us, and our focus. And so I know you have some topics, so I can't wait to just play with it.
Awesome.
And I don't know until today.
Just a very quick for people who people just meeting you for the first time. Deb is an incredible intuitive coach. So if you want to learn more about her work, make sure you check her website, and we'll make sure to add this information on this post as well. So let's dive in. So I want to talk about something that it's big, and like I say a lot of times, let's have a casual conversation about some big stuff, right? That's how I share some on blogs over coffee. Let's have coffee and talk about death in a casual way, I guess. So I want to bring this topic with you, Deb, because I think you have some great insights. But there's an interesting, level of fear right now, I feel, in my personal opinion, by observing what's happening. There is this level of fear of death going on in our country. Now, disclaimer, let me make it clear. I'm not saying here that I'm okay dying. That's not the conversation. But there's a tremendous focus on this virus. And I think the fear of death is being more apparent than ever because we are focused on this right now. So just to give a little data here, for example, subjects that makes me think about what's going on right now when it comes to death is, for instance, on average, somebody dies of a cardiovascular disease in America every 37 seconds, according to the Heart Association. So on average, somebody has a stroke in US every 40 seconds. So I just want to point out to this kind of data, and the same is happening with, people strong with diabetes, and then we have cancer. I mean, we could dive deep into the data, but it's not the purpose of this video cast. But it's just a point that, we don't hear people walking around and talking about the fear of dying of heart disease or strokes, or people even making a lot of effort changing their lifestyle because they don't want to die of those conditions. And yet, everybody's willing to stay locked at home, risking economy collapse in our country. People are going to be losing their businesses, people are losing their jobs, and we know the consequences of that are, mental illness and people losing their jobs, not be able to buy food, pay their mortgage. So there's another conversation to be had there. So what do you have to say when it comes to why are people all of a sudden be more in touch with this fear of dying?
Well, clearly, the focus is on why are we in this quote unquote lockdown, or stay at home, safer at home, whatever words you want to use for that. It is based on from the perspective of the media and, those in charge, if you will, we allow to be in charge, that we are supposed to stay here so that we don't get sick, so that we don't die. And then, the context of all of that is that this virus is supposedly, and again, not a doctor here, not a scientist, so everyone be very gentle. But the idea is that the rate of it being able to be contagious, very high, very, very easy to catch, if you will, to get, depending on where you are, of course, in your own being. That's another story that we might get to too. But the idea was that it was going to overload medical systems, that we're not prepared, and all these kinds of stuff. And ultimately, it's a continued spin, if you will, on what the media does really, really well, which is to create a lot of fear. Fear seems to sell. It captures our attention. When there's stuff out there, when someone's doing something that's naughtier or worse than what we're up to, we seem to be very captivated. And again, I think we used the word distraction last week. Mm-hmm. And what a distraction that is. I know people are really scared and they're really afraid, but I also think it's such an invitation to explore what is actually death and what is our beliefs. And I think for a lot of people, there is maybe, from my perspective, a misunderstanding of what happens when we die. And I think people think they're going to feel how they feel in this moment on the other side when someone leaves, when someone departs. They think that when they are out of body, they're going to miss people. They're going to be devastated. They're going to be depressed. They're going to be sad. They're going to be nothing of that, in my opinion, in my experience of what I've studied, what I've understood in my own client work and inner work. And so I think if we could understand that it is a rebirth, and there's beauty in that, and there's beauty in celebrating the life in that. And of course, we're going to have our human experience in missing people, but I think we're missing the point here. And if you look even from a scientific numbers perspective, the shutdown and the amount of people that, and again, we talked about this last week, we're never going to really know, that actually have succumbed to this disease from this process, is pretty small when you look at, almost 8 billion people on the planet. And I'm not sure what the numbers are right now. I think there are like 80,000 here in the US. And that's not to diminish this, and I want to say, anyone who listens to this, anyone who hears us, trust me, if there was someone in my family, in my friend circle, and of course I would have my human experience, I'd go through the grieving process, and I'm not discounting or dismissing this at all. Mm-hmm. But from the numbers perspective, it's really interesting. So I'm always interested in what's the higher invitation here, what is really going on, and not from the conspiracy stuff we kind of touched on last week, but just what is our invitation, because people are still thriving, and people are going to thrive. And out of the 8 billion people, there's going to be more thriving than there is going to be more suffering.
I love it. I love that you shared that. And I'm going to share just personal feelings about what's happening right now, which is interesting. We talked earlier, or you spoke the word focus, right? And what we tend to focus is going to affect our emotional level. So I would add another word to that, which is meaning, right? So we will have a thought about something, and like a thought about the COVID-19, and we're going to focus on that thought, and we're going to assign a meaning to that thought, and that's going to determine our feelings. And I'm choosing to be extremely vigilant right now, where I'm choosing to focus, because if I focus on the division that we're having right now, if I focus on the misinformation being shared by the media, and I'm going to make a disclaimer right now. The truth is, none of us, no doctors, not us, know a lot about this virus. So all we can do right now is to choose what experts we're going to listen to, right? And there's I feel like there's groups of the doctors that are going to the media and spread a lot of fear and say healthy people are dying, for example, versus other doctors who are in the field of holistic medicine and functional medicine, where they understand more the root of disease, and they come from a different place where they are saying healthy, truly healthy people, we need to maybe define what health is, but truly healthy people are not dying on this virus. Now, not to say we might find an exception there, we will. The truth is we don't have the exact data, and I think in the next 6 months to a year, we're gonna know a lot more data about what's happening. But right now, my focus is on the doctors who are talking about lifestyle modification, stress management. Even for myself, it's focused more on the spiritual side of this pandemic, because going back to what I was speaking earlier on focus, if I focus on the division of opinions, the difference of opinions, even in the judgment, I put a Facebook post on the other day about changing your diet, your nutrition, instead of choosing vaccines. And I was like bombarded by one person. So the people are very emotional right now, and I can be emotional myself if I'm not vigilant about my focus. So I'm reminding myself a lot of times that our earth is breathing better. The beaches are getting clean, our oceans getting clean. People are reconnecting more with their children, with their spouses. So I need to focus, and I remind myself, and the other word that comes a lot for me right now is trust. Trust the process, right? Because no matter what I choose to do, I can only help people to make healthier choices, to manage their stress better so their immune system is strong and they don't get sick. That's my role in this pandemic. And I know if I focus on judgment and anger and fear, I'm not gonna be resourceful, and I'm not gonna be able to help people. And I'll say I'm very human, and I have my moments that I really have a hard time with people's choices right now. And so that's why I bring you here, that because you also a great resource, and to remind me to like look at the bigger, more on a spiritual level, if you will. So that's what I have to share today.
I love it. I love it. And I always am so grateful for the authenticity, you know, to go behind the scenes, you know, and just be in the humanness. I think it's really important, and I think it's a really great reminder for us to be compassionate for ourselves as well. We're so good about doing that with clients and with other people, and to realize, you know, just because we do a certain type of work, right, doesn't mean that we're without the human experience. And I think that's so important. And I think it's refreshing for people to hear. You know, you talked about the focus piece, and that's what I'm all about. You know, from my perspective, spiritual law says the more we focus on something, we're saying yes to it. I think that's just an easy way to say. People will say law of attraction. The more we focus on something, the more we're saying yes to it. So often people will say fear and worries are just prayers for what you don't want, right? You know, we've heard that kind of languaging before. So just a reminder of that. For me, we'll call them the 3 F's today, maybe even 4 F's kind of. So you talked about the focus, right? So I'm focusing on something. I'm just going to use myself. So I'm focusing on something, maybe it's something fearful on the news. Okay, so now that's creating some thoughts and creating literally chemical. We talked about this. Yep. Often, you know what storm in our body. So now we have these feelings. So we focus, that's an F. Now we have the feelings, right? And then ultimately how we're feeling gives us feedback. So there's our 3rd F. And then I'm going to kind of cheat with a 4th F here, which would be then our focus, right? Our beautiful feelings, now our feedback determines, are we radiating life force?
Oh, I love that.
Force of our life,
Good one.
right? Are we creating this it's like this inferno of life force energy through us? Because to me, beyond the diet, beyond the supplements, beyond everything, this trumps it all. That's a better Trump to talk about. That trumps it all. So my thoughts, my underlying feelings, all of that is going to be, to me, what's going to make us thrive. And it's so weird. I don't know why I'm thinking about, you know, there's Moxie bread company. I think they're out of Longmont.
I think it's Louisville. Yeah.
Oh, Louisville. It's one of the L's. Okay. Sorry,
in Colorado. Yes.
Right. You know, I just saw something that they had posted, and it's so interesting because I've been doing this bread baking, and someone said, you should try and get some flour from them. And so, you know, all of a sudden I'm tuned into Moxie Bread Company, and they're thriving. They've actually hired more people. And so in the scheme of life experience, to me, there's always going to be, and that's a big thing for me to say, I could be wrong. There's always going to be the contrast of life and death and feeling light and feeling not so light and dark and shadowy and joyous. And so that's no different. It's just more focused on right now, this, are you being resilient in what you're doing? Or, or maybe the soul is wanting to leave the planet. And that's a hard one to understand.
I love that I love this last piece that you brought up, because it would segue to this part of like, we can take the word death, not literally, but what we can invite that to our own beliefs and our thoughts, and what beliefs that maybe need to be dying in us right now, so we can have a place for rebirth of new beliefs about our lives, our career, relationships, and how we even connect with nature, right? So there's this constant death and rebirth. And now I think it's a great moment to think about what we need to let go in our lives, so we create room for rebirth. It's happening in my business right now because of this pandemic. There's the birth of a new program that I'm creating in 12 weeks, where it's going to be about lifestyle modification and diet, exercise, mindset, emotional intelligence. And maybe without this pandemic, I wouldn't feel that life force, that energy to create a 12-week program, because we know, well, for coaches, it takes a lot of hours, a lot of work to create a good online program. Right. But there's so much life force. It's like this program wants to be created. And I feel like in a place like, okay, I'll create you. So this wouldn't be happening. So that's the birth for me. And it could mean, I don't know, and I'm making peace where I don't know. It could be the death of the physical space of the studio. Could be because it's something that I've been ready to let go for a long time, and fear maybe has been stopping me, and life is just like, let's accelerate this process for you. So I'm living this right now. I just lived the death of a relationship. Right. And I was giving birth to this new relationship with myself again, relationship with who I am and what I'm here for. How can I serve the world in the best way I can? So I think it's a great invitation for us and for our audience to really think about what needs to die in your life.
I love it. And there's so many threads. I see so many subjects as being this beautiful tapestry, right? And where can we pull on a thread? And there's so much here. I mean, we could spend a lot of time talking about it. And I think I definitely want to speak to you. I love the rebirth, right? I love what's dying and what wants to be born. So this, the literal, right? Which is great. And I think it's a great time, especially if people have lost loved ones, whether through this experience or something else. We're all in preparation for, our pets. Our pets are a great example. Lots of pets are leaving the planet right now. It's really interesting too, in preparing us to understand.
And a lot of people are getting puppies too. I see that on Facebook all the time.
I know.
Getting puppies. So it's like
right. It's so true. And so beautiful, right? That some are leaving, some are going. And I just, I want to remind people that, and just really even ask and invite people to take some time to think about, what do they believe about the death experience? What do they believe about afterlife, if they even believe? Some people are like, this is it, have a good day. And then it's like, zoop. Well, then that's an interesting way to live from, right? That's not my personal belief, and people can believe whatever they want. But I love to ask the question, like, who were you before you were you now, right? Like, and who will you be after? And I think some people who have had either beautiful meditative experiences, maybe even in dancing experience and ecstatic, even in making love, there's so many ways that you can kind of leave your body temple and not totally, right, leave the body temple in a death experience, and realize that you are not your body. And I think that's a really important thing to understand right now, is you are not your body. And so if I'm not my body, if I'm not, if I'm not the mother, if I'm not the coach, right, if I'm not the teacher, if I'm not the gardener, the housekeeper, all the things that, maybe hire out, who am I? Right. And I think that's a beautiful thing to look at right now. Like, what if we all took time to just get off of the radio, the TV, and take as much time to tune into, what do I really believe? What do I really want? I mean, I know you have this too. We ask our clients, you know, we hear a lot about what's not working for them. And then we say, well, tell me what you want. And often there's crickets.
Oh, they're crickets.
There's a lot of crickets, right?
Blank. And that's
Right?
part of what we help our clients with, right? To give them permission first to dream and help them to create that new picture that can pull them towards the future. Yes.
Absolutely.
So that I want to like shift a little bit, because you mentioned law of attraction a few minutes earlier. And I think this would be a good way to kind of end our call with something like, that our audience can practice and apply right away. So regarding this time, talk a little bit about the law of attraction, what people could be doing right now, applying the law of attraction to help them in this whole process of personal growth, spiritual growth. So what can they do? Because a lot of people might hear our words and think, okay, great, I don't even know, who am I don't know, I'm too busy, I don't have the time, or I don't know how to do that, right? So like,
I love it. Yeah,
like, are you kidding me? You know, it's like, I'm trying to survive here, and I'm like, I'm gonna ask, who am I, right? And
I get it. Yes.
So how can our friends use the law of attraction right now to start getting from that survival place to a place that they start, number one, feeling a little safer and feeling a little calmer, so they can start activating those frequencies, right? That vibration where the emotions get more elevated, so they start being more an attractive, you know, more good things, instead of just being focused on the fear, on the things that are going wrong, and the people who are dying versus the people who are recovering, the people who are thriving, even they get the virus and they're doing well. So let's talk a little bit about that, the law of attraction.
Okay, so switching gears. So if I heard you correctly, it's like, what can people be doing to thrive, right? And so prosperity is such a big word for me. You know, my first business started out and still is under the heading of Angels and Prosperity, right? So ultimately, it's an inside job, right? So if I'm wanting to shift, if I'm wanting something, then I need to take my focus off of what's not working, what's not making me feel good. And it's not that those things aren't going to be out there. It's just, we're asking in this process of learning spiritual law to move your focus to what you're wanting, and move your focus to what you already have. And that is, to me, a very number one primary piece. I think a great way to put it is, you can't have it till you have it. So in manifestation, everything is coming from the inside out. It's thought form, it's feeling form, it's understanding. Like when I'm tuning into being with you, right? So I'm thinking about what it's going to look like, it's going to feel like. I'm maybe preparing, what am I going to wear? Like I'm there inside before I'm here with you. And this is just a really simple way. People are like, okay, well, you can just turn on that and get that. But what if I want money? What if I want a new job? What if I want a relationship? And this is where imagination and daydreaming and feeling it, it's like being able to use all your senses to feel into that and live it, literally bring it into the aliveness of your being. And don't let anything get in your way with that. You know, some thoughts are going to come in. Oh, I can't have that. Oh, that's just a thought. Come back and focus. You know, last night I couldn't get to sleep. Here's a great example. And it's not like I was focusing on manifesting something per se, but it was more of creating that focus of how I feel. And not being able to sleep, I noticed I was getting irritated, right? Well, that wasn't helping me to sleep. And so I went into this place of gratitude and appreciation. And I just started, and this is a practical exercise. People are like, oh, it doesn't work. Trust me, it works. You know, I'm grateful for my husband. I'm grateful that the water is on and the lights are on. Go simple, go broad. I love that my cat's here. Whatever it is. And I think the stream of consciousness, a daily and multiple times a day practice on what's already working, right? In order to have the relationship, you have to understand and believe that you're worthy, and love self, and focus on all the good things about yourself that your mate can then focus on too. So it's about focus again, and we get those F's again.
I love it.
Right? Feeling feedback.
I love that you use the word simple, like keep it simple, because I'm getting this question a lot in my Zoom group about the law of attraction. People are getting very interested in this whole concept. And I think starting simply is the way to go. Like, just like you said, folks, like in your cat and in the water, on your husband, what you have around you, because just by doing that, which is being gratitude, right? Just being in that place of gratitude. We cannot be in gratitude in a place of fear in the same time. We can't feel fear and grateful at the same time. So this is, I think, the gem of this whole. If you want to forget everything that we said in this blog, that's okay, but pay attention here, even rewind. But if you constantly stay in a place of gratitude, and you're gonna have some moments that you're not gonna be there, but remind yourself and come back to gratitude. By default, our emotional state gets elevated. And when you're in an elevated emotional state, you're not gonna focus so much on the fear and all the things that are going wrong. And right there, you are practicing the law of attraction, which is a universal law. It's not a Hollywood theme. It's not esoteric. It's a universal law.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
Practice gratitude right now, and that it's law of attraction, right?
Yeah, and it's not that, I really want to speak to that, because people are like, but it's really, it's a mastery of self, because the essence of who we are is love and joy and ecstasy, and we're not going to have those things 24/7. I think that's a really key thing. It's like, well, I've heard my clients, I've practiced this, and I've gone with these statements, and I've done this, and I don't feel happy all the time. Well, okay, stop trying to feel happy all the time.
We're coaching the same clients, because I get it as well. Yes.
I'm coaching myself, I assure you.
Reminder, you're still going to feel pissed off, irritated, frustrated. I am almost every day.
Of course. Oh my God. Let's just have a good laugh at the last few minutes here. That, my beautiful hubby got on the scale today, and he's like, "Oh, the scale's wrong." And I'm thinking, God dang it, if the scale's wrong, I'm even more fluffy than I'm seeing myself, right? And I had a trigger of that, how dumb that is. But it was like, okay, you need to just bring it back to yourself. Right. We're going to have these experiences, but the idea is, okay, come back. Keep coming back, right?
It's about recalibration. Yes.
Recalibration. I love it.
Recalibration. So I think this is a great place to end, and a great place to bridge to our next call, because I know people are more interested in learning how to use this energy based on our thoughts or feelings or emotional state, right? So they can experience more joy, more health, because that's the other thing. And we're going to talk more about this next week, because this is a place of a passion for me. When you are living in those high emotional states, your body, it's creating all these chemicals of well-being. And it's with those chemicals that our bodies can heal, grow, and repair. So that's the state we want to create. That's how a lot of people have cured themselves from all sorts of diseases, is in that elevated state. And it's very important to remind everybody, it's like Deborah said here, you're not going to be there all the time, but when you practice, it's just training. You practice, and what I find in a lot of my clients as well, I train myself, so can you, is that the more you practice that becomes your new default system. So even if I'm angry, I'm upset, I'm frustrated with something, I'm aware of what I'm experiencing, I'm understanding, I'm applying some emotional intelligence there that will do a whole video on that. And I bring myself right back to that new home for me, the default system, which is really where we're meant to live. We just get too distracted with what's going on in the world. So
I love it.
Great place to segue for next week. So ask questions, email us, give us your feedback. We'd love to hear from you. And we're going to try to do this live next week. Let's see how we do technology.
That would be great. I love this, Alex.
Thank you so much for being a guest again. And, and look forward to next week.
Absolutely. Love you so much. And blessings to everyone.
I love you too. Bye, everybody.
Bye.